listeners, it's Kim. I'm here with my sister Kris. Hi, Kris.
Hi.
from from Cardvoyant Kris, and we just decided to do a video today. We usually talk about a lot of things, but today we thought it might be interesting to talk about automatic writing that Kris does on her channel. She does her Jacob's Journals entries, and she can tell you about that. But we thought we'd maybe talk a little bit about automatic writing, what it is, how it works. And then we have a couple of questions to ask later on about the situation that we're all going through right now in the world, I guess, in the country, in the world. And so Kris, do you want to just kind of explain how the Jacob's Journals kind of came about? And
because it's a long story, but I'll make it short. You might remember and I think this was maybe 2 years ago. I started. I think I said to you at the time, I think I could channel. I think I could channel somehow, and yet it didn't feel like what you do or what Cassie does. I mean, I couldn't quite figure it out. I just kind of had it in the back of my mind. And then not long ago, maybe 6 months ago, in meditation, I kept getting these phrases. Like I would be, you know, how you try and sort of make your mind quiet, but these phrases kept coming up. And I thought, finally, I was just like, well, I should just write these down. And so one day I started writing, and then as I started writing, it was just more and more and more. And it was like somebody talking to me. And I had this impression. It's hard to explain the pictures that you get in your head. When you're reading for someone or when you're doing anything like this. But I had this impression of several people, like 4 or 5, or sometimes 4, and then sometimes 5. And I felt like that's who was giving me the information. And when I picture my guide, it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of like here, and then they're kind of like here. And I thought of them as like spirit masters. And at first I started calling them my pandemic guides because, you know, we were doing a pandemic. And then it came to me that I should call him Jacob. And then I had this thought of Jacob's Journal. That's what this material should be called, Jacob's Journal. And for a while, I didn't do anything with it because it was just kind of strange, of course. And then I sort of wanted to massage the title. I'm like, Jacob's Journal, do I want to call it that? You know, but then it was just like, oh, that's what they said. So I just need to go with this. Whatever they say, I'll just do. I mean, you can't be editing and filtering, or else it's not going to work. Once you start to filter, I think that that's a big problem in any kind of reading and that kind of work, is when your mind becomes a filter. You know, the whole way that it works is to be open to anything. So then I just started collecting this material and then decided to put it on my channel, you know, in the form of little videos where I just read the different entries that I've gotten. They're usually not that long. For me, when I'm doing it, like in regular meditation during a day, I might spend like 20 minutes or half an hour. But when I do these Jacob things, it's usually like an hour. So I'm not sure exactly how long I'm writing, but it'll fill several pages of of course I write, you know how you kind of write crazy when you're, but it'll fill several pages, and then on like a written form, like a Word document, it's usually just a page or so. So that's how it came. But it was kind of a long time evolving. Like I said, a couple of years where it's like felt it coming on, and then it felt like the time had to be right. And during this time when I was really, you know, everything's kind of upsetting and you're really seeking answers and help and stuff, that's when it started to come out.
So I thought I might ask just a few questions that people might want to know, especially if people are thinking they might want to try it, or they think they could do it, or they're just curious about what it actually is, what it feels like. So how how did you realize, and maybe this isn't, maybe it's just something you just kind of did, but how did you realize that that Jacob's journals, because you have a channel, mm-hmm. a channel where you do readings and you just, but how did you know that Jacob's journal was meant to be kind of written down rather than just spoken out loud?
Like, I didn't know that at the very beginning, right? But I didn't know how else to do it and remember it other than writing it down. Right. And I can talk about that a little bit more because it's kind of evolved and is evolving. Mm-hmm. But well, I was a writer. That's what I did in like my working life. Right. And when I was writing things that weren't like, like newspaper facts, when I was just like writing on my own, like poetry or something, the way that it always worked for me is that I would have an image or an idea, and then I'd just try and describe it with words. So it was very visual, and then I tried to describe it with words. And that's how this sort of came to me. It's like I would have these images, and then words would accompany it. Sometimes I'd actually see the words in my head, and so they'd accompany it. And then as I was doing it, the material, I would just sort of do it. I just write down whatever I heard. And when I would go back, it was complicated. And I would have to really sit there and be like, no, wait a minute, what? And like, is this really a sentence? Does this make sense? Look at the paragraph. Does this make sense? Of course, it always did. But it's kind of complicated material. And I'm not sure, for me, especially, I need something to be able to look at and like break it down visually. Right. It's hard to just hear this kind of information and assimilate it. I mean, it kind of needs to be written down. So, and two, that's sort of, as I said, I mean, that's what I've done all my life. And so that writing part of it seemed like a natural fit for me. And as we've talked about before, so much that we do in our lives is like preparatory to this work or adds to it in different ways, in the ability to do it. So I think that's why it came in kind of written form.
And do you think that the fact that it's written down and that people can kind of look at it and keep going back to it, and maybe when they look at it, certain words or certain things will stand out to them? Do you think it was like your guide's wishes that it be written down, as well as, because you speak it as well, like when you do it, you say it out loud, but then you have it written down on your website. Mm-hmm. And so do you feel like you were prompted to kind of keep it in a written form for other people to read?
Yes, okay. Definitely. I feel like that's how they see it, and I see it, and that's why I think it's called a journal, because I think it's supposed to be that way.
And so do you think that, and I have like questions written down because I was thinking about this, but do you think that, has it made you believe that a lot of writing, whether it's a literature or, because writing is a very physical thing, you do it with your body, you use you use your brain, so it's a very physical thing. Has it changed your mind about certain types of writing, whether it's just regular literature, whether it's scriptures, that it does come from spirit? There is like a spirit component to it. Do you think in all writing or in certain writings or some?
It didn't change my mind about that. It sort of reinforced what I already knew, because I think anybody who writes, or probably anybody who does any sort of artistic thing, painting or anything that you love, really, you feel that way. When I write, sometimes when you get in that really groove, it does feel like it's coming from somewhere else, or it's coming from even like what people might call your higher self. There's a bigger component than just my brain, right? That it's coming from. And when it's really good, it does feel like that, definitely. So this just reinforces that, like that ability. And I don't want to like diminish what people do with their minds and stuff like that, because of course it's them too, but it's this idea, I think, of this blending of like the spiritual and the physical that we talk about all the time, and that's really what it is. And it's it doesn't matter the kind of writing you're doing. I mean, you could be writing like a comedy sketch, and I still think that when you get in that groove, it's you, and it's also beyond you.
Right. And so if somebody was going to want to try automatic writing, I mean, do you think it's something you have to be waited, like you have to wait till you feel prompted to do it? Or do you think you can just say, you know, I like to write and I feel like I'm spiritual, or I feel like I'd like to connect? Do you think it is a good way for people to try, that people can do it if they really want to? Do you feel like you have to be called to do it like you kind of were?
I kind of suspect that anything that's like this, that's spiritual in nature, is available to everyone. But I do think that you sort of have to, like if you said to your, just out loud, I want to do automatic writing tonight, I'm not sure that would happen, because it's like everything, it's a process, you know, so
right.
It takes a little bit of time. But if you're open to it and it's something you want to try, I think that you'll have support in that, you know.
Right.
And there may be specific things that you want to talk about, or things that you wonder about, and you just feel like this would be a good way to get that information. I definitely think anybody can do it. And I think there are different forms. I mean, the way that it comes to me is I'm very aware that I'm writing. And especially, and maybe probably to my detriment, I'm very aware of like how I would edit and things like that, because I did that for so many years. And sometimes I have to just, I'm not sometimes, all the time, I just have to let it flow. And then it just sort of comes. But I do have like my eyes open. I am writing. I'm very aware that I'm writing, but I'm still seeing stuff. You know how you can do that. You still see things in your head, a lot of imagery, words, and then I also hear it. It's sort of in my head. But I think there are people who, for them, it's more of really channeling. And so that they're very less aware of the actual writing that they're doing, and they're just sort of in the moment and letting it flow that way. So I'm sure there are degrees, but I just feel like all of these ways to connect are kind of available to everyone. It's a matter of you wanting to try this or try that way. It's like tarot too. You know, some people are just not interested in trying to learn tarot, and other people are just very drawn to it, and you know, for whatever reasons. And I really feel like anybody who feels that way, like I'm kind of drawn to it, that they will be able to use that, you know, even though it might take a little bit of effort. Everything takes a little bit of effort, but I think it can happen for everyone. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and it's interesting you talk about the form that it takes, because I had a reading with somebody this week, and they were talking about the fact that they wrote lyrics, and so they wrote lyrics for songs. And I was talking about that, and I said something about music, and she said, I'm not a musician, but I write lyrics for songs. And I thought that was so interesting, because she didn't say like, I write poetry. You know, she knew that they were meant to be lyrics for songs. Even though she's not a musician, she didn't know how to write music, but that's what she knew it was meant for. And I asked her at the time, how did you know that this was what it was meant for? Why didn't you say like, I'm a poet, or why didn't you go that form? And she said, because in my head, when I write it, it's rhythmic. It feels rhythmic. And so I think that, you know, just like you, that if people do something like this, to really trust your instincts and trust your own, like you said, kind of what has led you up to this, because maybe you are like a musician, or maybe you are more attracted to like poetry or something, so it will come out in that form. Or maybe it will come out in just like maybe it will come out in a written form that's not necessarily words. It could be pictures or something. I know there's a psychic, I want to say his name is Cash. I think it's Cash Peters. And everything he does is written in like little stick figures and stuff. And it shows like he'll like propel into the future for somebody, like, you know, Barack Obama or somebody, and he'll write out little pictures of them, like
How
having what's going to come. And they're always like, they go down a tunnel and then they go in here, but it says so much, even though they're little stick figures, and it's always really wacky, things that come out, but that's the way it's done for him. And I think I believe his channel is very popular, so I think it resonates with certain people. I think we've talked about that before too, where not every single psychic or every single person will resonate with everybody. So do you also think that's part of it too, is that it's like people that really enjoy reading and journals and that kind of thing,
and words,
and that the format that you have, that it will reach certain people, and words that it may reach certain people that maybe something like my channel wouldn't reach them, that it will be something that reaches people in a different way, touches them in a different way.
Right. And I think that, yes, I definitely think that. And I think that that is how this works, just like connection with spirit and the non-physical world, is there are all these different ways and all these different people. And I used to sort of have in my head that, and maybe this is a church thing, being raised in the church thing, where you think of church leaders, and even in most every religion, they have like a group of leaders, like whether it's the Pope in the Catholic Church or the prophet in the Mormon Church. And then, there's sort of this hierarchy that goes down. So I kind of felt like, well, there's a certain number of people who do this, maybe there's a handful of good psychics, or who is the one person that I should follow? And it's not true at all. There are so many people who are gifted in this way and who are communicating in various ways that really reach different people in different ways and touch their hearts in different ways. And hopefully for people, it's more than one person. There's several people that sort of resonate with you in that way, and people do different things too. They have sort of their specialties. Some people are mediums, and they connect with people who have passed over for their clients. Others connect with famous people who have passed over. Some people connect with the spirit guides, like I feel like I'm doing in the Jacob's Journal. And then other people do various kinds of readings, various kinds of, prediction kind of things. I mean, there's just so many people. And I've had so many people that I've read for that are gifted intuitively as well.
It shows also the way I did a reading on my channel today. I don't it'll probably be up later, but it's like it is like this, you can just feel like it's almost like a river flowing one way. It's like you can tell this kind of spirit energy is moving onto the earth, and it's just kind of, it's flowing in through people and through ideas and through art and all of these things. It's just kind of like it's flowing in. And to me, I just feel like it's time. It's kind of, it's the time for this to happen. And I think a lot of people, I know you have said too, that a lot of people that I talk to right now specifically, and really since the pandemic started, and we can talk about that too, because I know one of our sisters talked about the pandemic today, but she had a question about it, but that it's made people really not only be still with themselves and their situation, but to kind of rethink their life. Where am I going? What am I going to do when this list? Am I really happy doing what I'm doing? It kind of has put people in that. I always think of the hangman card. It's like we're all in that like suspended kind of thing right now. So many people. Yeah. Oh, really? In readings?
It's so weird. The cards that, and I'm told if you've had a reading from me lately, I may have mentioned this in your reading, but over and over again, I get some of the same cards, and they're cards that I didn't used to get that much. I swear I did not get used to get that much. One of them is the Hanged Man. The other is the Justice card. The other is, it's another balance card like that. But there's like 3 or 4 major arcana cards that I keep getting again and again and again and again, almost every reading. And I think you're exactly right. It's talking about like what's happening in individual lives, and also the world and how they relate. Both things relate. But I do think too that there's so many people. I mean, everybody that's here living right now sort of knew they would be encountering this situation in one way or another. You know, maybe they didn't
Right.
know the specifics of how it would play out, but um, this kind of energy and stuff that's going on. And so many people are here specifically to live through these times and help through these times. You know?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, so I do see that again and again.
So as far as like, if we kind of wrapped up the talk about automatic writing, I guess what we would say, I guess, is that if it appeals to you, if it's interesting to you, if you're like that really sounds cool, or I'd love to try it, I guess you're saying try it, but also be open to the form it may take with you specifically. Right. It may not come out in a journal form. It may not come out, it may come in pictures, or it may come in 1 or 2 words, or it may come in 1 word and you make a poem out of it, or so, be, I guess, open to what feels right for you. Is that what you say? Or
yes, definitely that. And like I said, be patient with yourself and with your guides as they try to figure out like you try and figure out the best way for this.
Right.
So I'd say be ready for it too. Like have a notebook. If you write, some people you could probably, obviously you could on a computer, right. It may come in the form of like recording it and then writing it down,
Right.
But for me, I like writing with pen and paper, with a notebook. I have like a million notebooks. And so I had it ready. It really does feel like it's coming on, like the ability to do it. And so, ask your guides. And especially, like exactly what you said, if it's something that resonates with you, that it sounds interesting, that you're drawn to, then definitely try it. Ask your guides, and then just sort of sit in meditation, like with that in mind, but then opening just, as you always do in meditation, sort of clearing your mind, letting it come forward. And it really will. I think it will. And just be ready for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good. So thanks, intuitive viewers. It's been a good time talking. I hope that it's been enlightening and interesting. And please, if you need a reading right now, Cardvoyant Kris, or cardvoyant.com to get a hold of Kris for a reading. I'll be starting readings up again in January, so I'll be kind of closed down for just a little bit while I do classes. If you want to do classes, send me just an email that says classes in the description, intuitiview@gmail.com, and I'll send you back a little thing to tell you I got your email. And I'll let you see Lucy Goose. She's in Patty. Okay, so I'll see you guys later, and we'll see you, Kris. Thanks, Kris.
You're welcome. Bye.